hands out. We're like falling stars, miracles dancing on the ground. And we're right with you to feel it strike deep dive. We're right with you, yeah. And we're right with you to feel it strike deep dive. Suffering grows, yeah. Let's say that life is beautiful. Would you let me in? No, yeah. Let's say that life is beautiful. Would you let me in? No, yeah.
Welcome, everyone. It is such an honor to have Dennis Glanby here. And Dennis is a Scandinavian Generation X Viking with a passion for history and decoding myths.
That's right.
And yeah, and he also decodes legends from deep in our past, but he looks for inconsistencies in the current historical narrative and timeline. And he looks at the artifacts, the archeological sites, the stars above, which really gets me, the fact that you look at that. I mean, and the depths below. So the stars above and the depths below. Hello, Dennis. Welcome.
Hi, Julia. Thank you.
Wonderful to have you.
Thank you for having me. So, where do we want to go first?
Ooh, I want to go. Take me to the water. Take me to the stars. Take me to the stars through the water.
Yeah, it's just another way of saying, everything between heaven and earth, or heaven or hell, if you want to call it that. But I discuss everything, and you pretty much that was my introduction on my own channel, and that's a quick intro of myself. I'm a Swedish guy. I was born in Sweden, but today I live in Denmark. So yeah, within Scandinavia, absolutely. But as many other in this modern world, I feel like a child of the world instead. So I've traveled all over the world. I'm my education and my earlier trade days was as a mechanic, service technician, and a welder, very highly specialized welder. And I've traveled all over the world, and especially as a drag racer, which is my main hobby, and as a service technician in the marine world, working with amazingly huge engines and machines all over the world. I think the biggest ships that you see sailing out there with all the containers and all the bulk shit and all of that stuff, those are the ones we worked with. And yeah, I also had a side business as a drag racer, and I've built race cars and race engines and all of that stuff for one of the fastest motorsports in the world, competing at a mainly European level and European Championship level. And I ended my career for the last 8 years of my career, my entire life, 40 years of drag racing career. The last 8 years, I was a service manager for a couple of Top Fuel teams and Nitro Funny Car teams. So it's been like a very, very technical background. And then I moved to Denmark 8 years ago. I met a woman, and I became the partner of one of Denmark's biggest workshop centers for personal and spiritual development.
Wow.
So it went from like the super mechanical part to like the super spiritual part in like a year.
Ooh.
So it's a very, very, very varying background. One of my long-standing side hobbies has always been history, myths, legends, and trying to find that grain of truth deep in the legend. Because the stories we hear, especially the ones that survive for a long time, they're based on something that makes them last. There is a grain somewhere in there. There is some core in there that just makes them last through the ages. And the story gets told and told and told again. Have you ever played a game called Chinese Whispers?
No.
It's where you have a bunch of people and you sit in a circle.
Oh,
And
telephone?
telephone game. Yeah, that's what you call it.
Okay.
That's right. Telephone game. So you sit in a circle and the first person whispers one word into the ear of the person on your left. And that person does the same thing, same word, just passes it on to the next one. And it goes around the circle. And you'd be amazed at how few people you actually need for that word not to come back the same. Just repeat a single word, a simple word. Doesn't matter what it is, just a single simple word. And it's 3-4 people. That's all you need. And it's not the same word that comes back around the circle. Imagine when this is stretched over thousands of years. Then that story has to have some form of core to make it last.
I remember they did a thing where like somebody came in, they had a hidden camera, they had a crowd of people, and it was like a professor at a college, and they had somebody come in and rob them. But hearing people's witnesses that were there 100%, they were there, they saw it, and how it differentiated from what actually happened and how the human mind can do it. So in history, you could have all these witnesses, but the interpretation and the, even minutes after is vastly different.
Memory is very selective, yes. And we think it's like easy to remember details about, what kind of clothes a person was wearing that I just saw like 10 minutes ago, a person that did something that actually made me notice them. Even 10 minutes later, you can fuck up what they were wearing, what color jacket, what type of jacket, what type color hair, all of it, and especially if you hear someone next to you give statement just before you get the chances are that your own statement is going to get a little bit swayed by what they're saying. But that's just the hive mind of humanity, I guess. It's like, well, but we can't really put words on ourselves. We use other people's words to describe instead. And when we hear a word, it's easier to just adopt it, especially if I haven't made up my mind yet. Which brings us into something really deep psychological very quickly, where we can start talking about how easy it is to affect people as a whole or as a major collective, be it a small network, be it a couple of friends, be it a citywide, statewide, nationwide thing, worldwide. Hysteria goes wild really quickly when you can't explain it. And that's what I do. That's where my little channel that I'm just kicking off now called The Bigger Picture comes in. And I'm trying to put everything together as scientifically as I can, but still having respect and stay true to the spiritual nature of things. Because this world that we live in is not one or the other. It is both in unity. If you don't have spirit with you, you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to be an empty shell forever, and you're never going to be happy, and you're never going to get on with your shit. But balance between the two, balance is everything. So when we get into that part of it, you try to, you're going to try to be in society with other people. So when you hear them telling the same story, you're going to get affected by that story, and you're going to want to adopt it subconsciously as your own, or tell the same narrative, because that's how we bond in together. But these stories that I'm talking about and the myths and legends that I delve into, they kind of gap over all that stuff. It becomes, let's take one example. We all know, especially here in the West, Christian West, we know the story of the flood as Noah and the ark. There was a great big flood, and God became angry, and man screwed up and lost his ways, and God just wiped the whole slate clean, and he saved Noah, his family, and 2 of each animal. We all know that story, right? But then we have that story is supposed to be a little, that's Old Testament stuff. So, but then we have, ancient Babylonians, for example. They have the story of Utnapishtim, and it's the same story. It's the same flood story. There are gods that tell one person to save your shit, build a boat, sail off. You'll be saved. All the others will drown. Same story. If you go around the world, you're going to find this flood myth over and over and over and over again. Especially if you go to Asia, you go the whole Asian coastline. Pretty much every little tribe has their own little flood myth, and almost every culture that we know of, as long as we have writing to say something about it, we have the story of a flood. Even me, I'm Scandinavian, so we have Norse mythology. Odin, Thor, and all of these guys. Excuse me. And we also have a flood myth in Norse mythology, the story of Ragnarok, which is where the gods have their big end fight, and everything comes to an end pretty much. Which and Ragnarok starts with something called Fimbulwinter, which is the never-ending winter, or the very, very long winter. Well, yeah, that's an ice age, kind of in description. And then after that, we have a great upheaval where the gods fight and they battle each other, and where Thor goes to knock out Jormungandr, the world serpent, and all of that, and everything dies. Pretty much everything dies. All the gods die, all the beasts die, everything dies. That upheaval, the skies fall, the stars fall from the skies, mountains blow up, and earthquakes and all that. And that whole thing ends with everybody's dead, and then a massive flood washes everything away. And after that, you have two people waking up on a beach, two children actually, and they are the only ones left. And they are then there to start anew, like children, like Graham Hancock says. And that's the end of the time of the gods and the start of the time of man. So even it doesn't matter where you go, you have a flood myth. So that triggers someone like me to go looking for what makes every culture tell a similar story with details about very, very, very few survivors. Lots and lots of water, lots of upheaval and turmoil in a period just before. There must have been a flood. So that's what I do. And that's how I puzzle stuff together. And that's the kind of parallels I find. And that's the way I go through myths and legend.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And now I gotta breathe.
Well, it's great to have you. Do you need to share your screen at all, or do you just want to?
Oh, when we get to there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I guess you're referring to my one of the projects that I'm currently involved in. I'm pretty much the only one working on it right now, but which is there are some sites in Turkey, in southeastern Turkey, that have been found fairly recently. It started back in the 90s with the first site that to be excavated, or started to be excavated, which was Göbekli Tepe. And many people have heard that name before, and it's a pre-pottery Neolithic site in southeastern Turkey, just near Sanliurfa in Turkey, which is currently dated to roughly 12,000 years old, 12,500 years old. And at the time when this dating was done and this was put on the timeline, at that time, the major part of historians thought that the world started somewhere around 5,000 BC. That means about 7,000 years ago. So when that site was found, that basically doubled modern man's timeline for civilization or construction work or anything like that. The interesting part about this site was that it contained megalithic stonework in form of T-pillars. I guess I don't know many of your network, but I guess many might be interested in this kind of stuff and has taken a look at Göbekli Tepe in one form or another, and seen these massive, what is it, 6 meters, 6 meter 20 tall, massive one piece T-pillars that are situated on bedrock basins, and all around it there are T-pillars, huge ones, 3.5, 4 meter tall ones, with high relief. So when they've carved these stones out of one piece, they've left material to make these little intricate animals or other carvings on these stones. So it looks like there are animals crawling on top of the stones, which are in high relief. It's all in one piece. And it was a very, very interesting site when this was found. And Klaus Schmidt, who was in charge of that site from all the way up mid-90s, all the way up to he passed away, I think it was 2016, 14, maybe 15, somewhere around there. He was very passionate about this site. But all the stuff around Göbekli Tepe brought in a lot of investment and all of that stuff, and they found other sites. One of those sites was Karahan Tepe. Tepe means hill, so pretty much anything that is a hill is a tepe. So that's why all these sites, because they are on hilltops, are called different tepe names. And we have a collective name for many of these sites, or the most interesting sites anyways, that we link together in this period. And we call those the Tas Tepelar sites. People who want to find out more about this, it's a very easy Google, and then maps will be revealed to you. And Karahan Tepe was unearthed in 2017 and came to public knowledge more around mid 2019, just before the massive corona lockdowns hit. And that's pretty much where I got involved with this site, and where I first spotted what is now turning into a hypothesis just as strong as any other that regarding this area. And so I saw something that I identified as, or I wanted to call straight away, water features. And the certain parts of it looked to me, with my engineering mind and plus growing up on the coastline, I'm used to seeing water erosion and the difference between if you break a rock and if you have a couple of 100 years of water washing over it. I know the difference. And I see that there are parts of it that are like very, very clean water, rounded and smoothed off. And then other stuff is not. So it shows to me that, okay, water has flowed in this direction, and that's very close to into this thing and this thing. And I kind of started like, there's something going on here. And then I started researching this site, and it was nothing in the story that I was told when I started researching the site that explained any of this. And I was like, am I the only one seeing this shit, or am I just being nutter or what? And I keep looking into it from time to time, and I have this idea of what's going on there, and I just hear a bunch of other theories coming out, and a lot of other people starting to explain stuff, and all of a sudden people are writing books about stuff, and nobody mentions this. And I'm like, I got to be out of my mind here. Is nobody seeing this? And then eventually I got in touch with another network because of other research that I do. And that network started telling me, you're onto something here. You need to get this out there. You got to make some YouTube videos or something like that. So But, having a new idea about something where there's no graphics, nothing to explain it, and living in a time where we have to be so visual when we're explaining a new idea. Otherwise, people just won't get it. Because if we just sit here and spit words at people, some get it, some really don't, most don't. But if you show them a picture, picture speaks more than 1,000 words.
Mm.
Classical saying. So it's a lot easier to relate to. Oh, wow. Okay, that's what you mean, instead of me just describing it. I do have some stuff to show you here in a little bit. And so what I've been working on to do this, I had to learn several different programs, but one of those is Blender, a 3D modeling program. So what I did is that I've worked, first of all, trying to learn this program and get, how to make videos and all of that stuff, and how to make all of this in 3D. And I now have a model of KARAHAN Tepe that I've started re-erecting some of these old stones, because KARAHAN Tepe is absolutely smashed to pieces. There is very, very few stones that are intact. Most of them are like almost turned to rubble. I have some photos I'll show you in a minute. So what I've been trying to do is re-erect and try to put these things back in place. Not to make it super pretty, but to make it as accurate as I can from the material that I have. And then I've run some water simulations on this 3D model to see what would happen if I pour in water here. Boop, what happens? And the water starts taking that same path that I saw in my mind. Being of that mechanical mind, that's how my mind works, like a little bit of a 3D programming. I can pull shit apart and turn it upside down and flip it around just by thinking about it. And it starts generating the same kind of answers, and that I already saw, but now I have it visually. So now I've been working on that for a while, trying to get that together. And yeah, well, it's getting there. So now I've pretty much got the whole model and got that going. But what was really interesting doing this was that the things that started appearing in front of my eyes when I did this model. And it was quite interesting to see where the water levels ends up. And I started seeing that there's an inlet, there is a drain, there are two drains, there are overflow features, there are control features to level the water. I'm going, what? So yeah, and I started thinking about, what is all this? Why do they do this? And there are some other people that have thought about that being water in there. And they say, well, it's a bathhouse. It's a Turkish bathhouse. Everybody's heard of a Turkish bath, right? So it's Turkey. It's got to be a bath. Right. And they didn't put roofs over it and all of that stuff. But when I start looking at it, and when I just sit there and I just change the environment on my 3D modeling program from day to night, and turns out that, well, now I'm absolutely certain that those sites, KARAHAN Tepe, Göbekli Tepe, and many of the Tas Templar sites were actually observatories, star observatories. And turns out that KARAHAN Tepe is even older than Göbekli Tepe is. It's about 500 to 1,000 years older. So that brings us out into the 13,500 years ago range, which is in Younger Dryas period, where we have many people now hypothesizing or theorizing about a comet impact event that took place during the last ice age, which has generated tsunami waves or great floods in definitely in certain parts of the world, if not all over the world. Again, back to the myths and legends there. But so this is an area of time where a lot of ice is melting on northern parts of the world. But this is in southeastern Turkey, and I was kind of like, where would that water come from? And that's also been one of those things that I've been working on quite a bit uh, in this period of time now, trying to figure out. Turns out that there are extensive evidence for that water coming in from the Fenno-Scandinavian ice sheet during the melting of the last ice age, or the melting of the ice cap during the last ice age. And all of a sudden there was this water, and now it's where that water comes in, how it gets there, where it comes, and yeah. So that's what I've been working to build up and simulate and try to explain. And yeah, that's
Oh, this is fantastic, Dennis. I
thank you.
love that you printed it and took it a step further, because people are visual and running it as an experiment, like, and having profound, it started with a vision, and you
Yeah.
produced it, recreated it, and now it's just confirmation of what your original instinct was. But
Yep.
you're talking to somebody that's, I'll get into that later about like stars and informations I've received from them. And then water is very programmable, and instilling the water with the knowledge of the stars. And it's something where we've forgotten, but we know, like, in our DNA, and that we're aware of, that there's knowledge there, right? And
Yep.
yeah, I like to have theories. I've done presentations at conferences and stuff about that there might have been like a really big flood, but then it being like in zones. You have these star forts and these pyramids, and these water geysers that, if somebody got keen control of it, you could do, like mud floods, like flooding certain areas. Like there could have been a large one, but then an induced one in areas. So it's
I would take an awful lot of energy to be able to do something like that. I tell you that. That's for sure. It's the powers of Mother Earth are a lot stronger than we are capable of generating in any way. And what's easy for her to produce is nigh impossible for any of our species to reproduce.
Well, I get that there's there's a significant amount of water and pressure beneath, and some of these ancient sites are designed to contain it. And so what I'm saying is, if somebody gathered control over that and knew how to operate that, it's like operating a large dam with a lot of water. I gather so much water beneath the earth. So a possibility of, like, if the gates were open and if you got the gates open and how that would work. And then star forts, you don't really get clear definitions on what star forts really are, but from what I've gathered with remote viewing and how deep it goes and what it does, that's also a possibility of and the power that holds. So there's a lot of like tech that guards things and operates things that we're not fully aware of. But yeah, this is super exciting. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait to listen to your presentation.
Well, I can show off a little bit here real quick, and just to give a as I said, it's so much easier when I can get graphic about it. And I do have some stuff here set up. Let's start with showing. No, that's not where we go. We go to share. Let's start with this. Here we go. So Google Earth, we're all familiar with our little blue planet. So we're going to go all across we have Africa, we have most of Europe covered. So I live way up here in Denmark, and Turkey is down here in this area. So the area that we are going to look at is right down here in southeastern Turkey, or right on the border of Syria. And we're going to do a quick, just hone in on it real quick. Quick flight. So this is the excavation site that we're looking at. And this is in quite a fairly desolate area. And it's one of the biggest hilltops. And if you notice this area of dirt on the top of the hill, most of the other hills in the area are absolutely bare. That's because that all of that stuff was brought in by human hands and covered up, much like they say about Göbekli Tepe. So it's otherwise all of this would have disappeared downhill a lot earlier. So this is the site in itself is a very tiny little site when this was taken. And I think I'm just gonna take a look at, what do you say, photos first, or shall we take a look at a model of the site?
Ooh, a model.
Let's do the model first.
I feel like a little kid. Like, yeah, Dennis, yeah, model time.
That's not what I was doing. No, we're actually going to do, we'll do the photos first, actually. It's easier because that'll show you what the site looks like today.
Awesome.
You can let that in there. I have a little photo shoot share program here. So this is this footage is from Ben Van Kerkwijk, a good friend of ours, over on the Uncharted X channel. He was there last year, and this is the site of KARAHAN Tepe. So I'm just going to show this real quick to show some details. Like this groove here is important because it's an overflow feature. We have an area over here that is very rounded out, cut back and cut down to provide water flow. Stones have been put in place later to manage this flow. And this whole part, where we're just looking at this left part here, this is what I call the upper pool, or the source. And if you look down in this hole here, you see that there's a big slab of stone right at the bottom. All of this here, what people are standing on and what this is cut out of is all bedrock. It's limestone bedrock. So all of this is, again, cut down in bedrock. What we just saw was to the right here. So this is just panning out to the left, going down, and there's a massive hole cut out of bedrock. So there's pretty much no other exit path parts apart from what I'm about to show. But this is I call this the cistern. Some call it the phallic pit, or like that, because the obvious phallic symbols in there. I say that these are pillars left in place because this is the only part of the site that I believe had some form of roof on it. You can actually see the ledge around it, where most likely stone slabs have been placed. And you can also see on some of these pillars here.
Roof. I'm just trying to think.
The stones that are put on top of the pillars to support the roof, to space the difference in between. So if you look at these parts here, this notch right here, and just right over to this notch here, this ledge here, that is pretty much level. And this is the famous head right here of KARAHAN Tepe.
Awesome. And what day of the year was it the equinox or the solstice?
Yeah, I think that it was on
winter. I think it's winter. I think it's December 21st.
Well, yeah, the problem is it doesn't really face any equinox solstice direction directly. So if there is, it must have been a lot later. There is, however,
I thought it was like his face lights up during that alignment.
Few hours into the day. And that's beyond what I would call a true alignment, because in a true alignment would happen at sunrise, as the sun clears the horizon, like we see, for example, in Egypt, where we're looking at on the Giza Plateau, for example. If we stand on the back of the Sphinx on spring equinox morning, when the sun rises, this is where the sun rises due east. It is the only day of the year where the sun rises exactly due east and sets exactly due west. That's why we call it the equinox. And this is if you stand on the back of the Sphinx and look over its head, you're looking due east, and you will see the morning sun rise right there. And this is also the position, if you know, we have something called a great year, a 26,000 year cycle that moves the zodiac, or we use the zodiac because it's our reference point, but it moves it backwards. And 1 month of this great year is 2150 years. It's called the precessional cycle of equinoxes. And it's, for example, they say that the time we live in now is the time of Pisces. And it's been the time of Pisces since year 0, pretty much. And after Pisces, we're going to do the zodiac backwards. We're going into Aquarius, and that's why the old 70s songs, "This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius," that's where that comes from. So we're going backwards. Back in the old Egyptian days, it was Taurus that was the leading thing, and they had the great symbol for that, the bull, the Apsis bull, one of the most holy figures in ancient Egypt. After that, you get into the old Hebrew times, what we call the sons of David or Solomon times, which is the next 25 or 2150 years leading up to year 0. And that was, what do you call it? Oh, what's it in English? Aries? No, not Aries. The ram. What's his name? What do you call the zodiac sign of the ram?
Aries.
Is it Aries? All right.
Yeah.
The time of Aries. And that's the ram's head. That's the sacrificial lamb of the Old Testament, the Hebrew, and the ram's horn that was so symbolic for this time and era. And now today, or in this period that it would be now in Pisces, we have the fish symbol, which is the symbol of the Christians, pretty much. You've all seen that little stylish fish on the back of cars everywhere, right?
Yeah.
That's the time of Pisces. So this is the great zodiac going backwards, and have the precessional cycle of the equinoxes and all of that. The thing is, when this site was active, it's 13,000 years ago. That's halfway through the precessional cycle of the equinoxes. That means that our North Star, which is Polaris today, would not have been Polaris. It would have been on, closer to the star of Vega. 1,000 years ago. And that's a little, like, pretty much due a little bit south of, so the whole wobble of the earth during these 26,000 years causes the equinoxes and the way the sun hits certain places at certain time to differ.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is a semi-alignment today, that chances are that alignment was not there 13,000 years ago.
Ooh, that would make me wonder if it would be November 21st where it aligns. Like, you know how there's the day of when the Pleiades gets the highest in the sky, all the Druids, all the Egyptians, the Mayans, like it used to be on October 31st when it struck November 1st. And it's like the most magical day of, if you ever want to have something happen or whatever, when the Pleiades hits the highest in the sky. Well, now that occurs November 21st. So it's interesting that it's, a few weeks off now. So I wonder what that face looks like around November 21st. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I think that the guy who was there and claimed that there was this alignment, I think he had this, I think it was equinox morning. So like a few days ago now.
Oh, really? The spring equinox? This is so pivotal that we're doing it now.
It was something like mid morning, something like that, like 10:30 or something like that, where sun was like quite a ways up already. So I'm curious to how accurate that is. But I gotta say that, to be honest, it's insignificant in relation to all of this, because that face actually has a different function. And if we look closer to it, or closer at it, you're going to see that the face, and especially under the chin here, it almost looks porous. That's because water has been standing right. You can see it like a mustache on this guy. Water has been standing right up to his nose. It's one of the water indicators where the level is full. So when he drowns, the cistern is at maximum capacity. It's a very telling little thing. they were much more practical around this site than they were religious or
I happen
in
to
a
be
sense.
a fan of those phalluses. Darn it. You'll never forget
All right.
looking at those phalluses.
That's why a lot of people have gotten that stuck on that being the phallic pit. To me, it's
And you call it what? You call it the what pit?
cistern.
The cistern?
Cistern, yeah. A cistern is it's just a big uh, jug for holding liquid. So cistern. So it's a water reservoir kind of thing. Call it a reservoir if we want to. But anyways, so we see over in this side here, there is the hole that the light is supposed to shine into and hit this face. This is all carved out of bedrock, all of this. So
Wow.
even this feature, this bridge over right here, all of this is all bedrock. So this hole is carved out of the bedrock. So they've made the arc and then they've carved the hole, punched the hole through. And so that's why I'm certain that this hole is very spot on where it needs to be. And it looks like there is erosion going through, eating through the wall there, but that's not true. There's actually two stones on the other side leaned up against this. So the hole is actually all the way down to here where you can see it's a pretty flat base at the bottom. And if you can see all of this stuff hanging off the wall here, it has a different tone. You can see some of it up here as well. It's because limestone hangs on to a lot of the stuff in the water. So it kind of purifies it a little bit, cleans it up a little bit. So if you have standing water, if the walls are limestone, perfect, because the bacteria and all that wants to stick to the walls instead, it'll grab onto that and live there instead of floating around and come with the water, which is excellent if you have a water reservoir. And you need to drink it and stuff like that.
God,
So
I was just thinking, like, if I had a bunch of like goddess girlfriends, I'd be like, "Hey, girls, ladies, you want to come over and, take like a bath, have like a pool party in our phallus like pool, like with amazing minerals that we can absorb in it and make our skin glow." Like, I'd put some radium. Oh my gosh, that'd be fun.
And as we go up through this site, we go to the left here from this photo. We go up into this area here, is where these things are, and these are the old T-pillars, and you can see how smashed up everything is. Everything is broken. The back walls here, they are small brick or small stone masonry, but these guys here, they're supposed to be like one huge block. And so this is a huge T-pillar. It should stretch up to here. And this part that you see, now here I'm with my cursor. So this block here, for example, it's supposed to be one big block. And the head of it is actually laying right here. So you can see that this was part of this block. So that was up here, the head of it. Same with this, all this stuff down here. It belonged to this pillar here. So all of these are broken and smashed. So I had a lot of work cut out for me. This is another view down in the phallic pit. I got to pop by that.
Wait, originally though, like when they were unveiling it, didn't something happen to where it kind of got messed up? Like,
not that I know of.
Oh, okay.
Not that I know of. Here's a really interesting little detail here. You can see the white part. The top of this stone is absolutely white, grayish white, and the rest of it's brown, because this is what stuck out of the ground. So this is where ground level was. Everything else is buried. So this little part is what gave this, one of the stones that gave this site away.
That's what ground level. Wow. If you were walking, you guys, and you just saw that sticking out, would you
out of the grass?
Would you even know? Have any idea? Wow.
There's hundreds of them all over this hill, and the same over by Decoding Tepe and many other sites. These are still sticking up of the ground that are unexcavated. Many of them will never be excavated but again, this is still very young archaeology wise. But you can see here into this, the features that we were just looking at, the hole is right here in this area. So this guy is sitting, crouching right on top of that arc that we were looking at earlier. So those photos were all taken from up here. Now we're over on the other side and looking down into the main enclosure, as we call it. And you can see that these stuff here that looks like just rubble laying down there. There used to be one massive standing T-pillar, one here, one here. So they were standing up right in the middle here, just like they do at Göbekli Tepe.
Mm.
Everything is smashed. Everything is smashed. So it's quite a lot of work, and you can see how what the area around it looks like. You see all of this. It is pretty high up in elevation, reference wise. So it's definitely one of the highest hills around. But you can see how bare all the other stuff is. This is the museum of Karahan Tepe that they're building up here now. But there's no. This is extremely green for being.
I forget how many miles it is away from the other site. What is it, 30?
Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe are roughly 25 miles apart.
Okay. Okay.
So Karahan Tepe is 25 miles southeast of Göbekli Tepe. So they're not far away.
Okay.
You'll drive it in like 20 minutes or something like that.
Okay.
Let's skip ahead here, and we find these kinds of blocks laying down used as slabs built in like horizontally, and we can see from the shape of them that there are old T-pillars that have previously stood up, but then as they've rebuilt, they've laid them on their side and reused them as these benches, or let's call them benches for now. And we can see that they have the same kind of carvings as we find on other pillars here, but that carvings are usually found going vertically instead of horizontally. And that they're pretty much just like leopard pelts. So you can see the four legs and the tail, and there's a bunch of spots on them. But you're gonna remember all of this is carved out of bedrock. So these are carved one piece big pillars, like 4.5 meters tall, but a foot wide or thick, and then they're carried from a quarry on the side of the hill up into here, erected upright, and with these extra fairly extravagant high relief carvings. These are nothing compared to what other parts have. But even those laying down, like well supported and stuff, even those are smashed. So there was a lot of work to do here. Everything's right here. You can see some more figures.
Ooh, what is that?
That is a feline form, some sort of cat animal. Very, very interestingly, this fits really well body wise over the constellation we call Ursa Major, or Big Bear. So the back part here. And we have the handle going out this way, but this part here would be the Big Dipper. So spot here, star here, star here, star here, and then the handle going out this way. They've chosen other stars to put the tail up this way. And we see that in different shapes and forms, but with the same arc of the back, head facing the same way, the same weird crouch on the legs. Legs always exactly parallel, not one, like when kids draw figures, you always have the legs come out like sawhorses instead. You don't have like parallel. These are all depicted in this way, which makes it fit really nicely over the Ursa Major constellation. But you can see all of this is broken, smashed, all of this. So that's what I've been trying to do in this 3D program, is pull all of this stuff back together again. Here you can see one of those pelts, leopard pelts that I described. We saw horizontally on that other piece. This is how we usually find them.
Wow. The one looked like, if you went back like one or two, it looked like was that an elephant? Like, oh yeah, right there. Oh wait,
right there,
that one. Yeah, was that an elephant?
This is actually broken off, all of it. So it's kind of missing 2.5 feet of rock. So this would have been something similar like this. You can also see it. This front piece here has been broken off. And that has probably been some form of statue or high relief part of it. Same on this. And they found a lot of this stuff laying around, broken off, and that's been moved to the museum in San Luis and can be seen in there. And they
Mm.
are some amazing figurines of feline forms, and even like cats sitting on the heads of a man, like with the claws in his forehead and stuff like that. Really cool shit. That's a longer story, and you know that's going to bring us very, very deep into this of a rabbit hole, which is already deep enough, believe me. So these have the faces of them broken off, and
Ooh.
here's back to Mr. Rockface
Doesn't he
again.
seem like he has like a helmet on or something, like very metallic? Like,
It looks very flat because it has been flattened, and that flatness of his head is actually exactly level with that ledge that I showed you earlier.
oh, the
So
surface.
so his head would also support whatever slab you would place on top of that. His head would be like jammed up to it and actually be part of holding it up. Um, and then I think these notches right here were actually for putting some kind of light in here. There were other stuff as well, but that's it. The end of the photos, that how the site looks today. And so let's kill that one.
Ooh, that was
Breathe, Dennis.
amazing,
Breathe, Dennis.
Dennis. Yeah, breathe. Take a
Oh, yeah,
second. Take a load off. Put your feet up. That was awesome. And I bet there's a lot of people that have never seen that site. Like, I'll never forget the first time I saw it. It just, you always remember it's significant. And that face.
Absolutely.
But yeah, those
He's
phalluses, man.
absolutely mystifying, that guy. So I've loaded up another. I've actually loaded up my program, my 3D program, Blender. So this is my 3D model of this site. And I'm just going to show really
Wow.
quickly what I've done here. So I've based this off a model that have been put together from photogrammetry scans of drones flying over the area and people taking photos inside or around this site. So it's composed of photogrammetry scans, and it's as close of a model as I can get without actually going there myself with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gear and scanning it myself. This is the best I can do from where I'm at right now. But what I've done here is I've removed some of the stuff, like the broken rocks that you saw scattered all around, the things that I'm trying to put back together. I've removed some of that, and I've just cleaned up the area a little bit. I haven't really modified the site in any way. It's leveled the way it's supposed to, and all from the scans. And it's aligned north, west, or north, south, east, west, as good as I can get from with the material I've got. So we have the upper source here. We have the phallic pit here, or as I call it, the cistern. And we have the face on the wall is right there.
Dennis, this is amazing. I can't believe this. This is amazing.
This is only the start of my work. So this is what you call the elephant, right? This is what it looks like. So you can see that it's missing quite a spectacular piece. Right. It should be something like this in shape. And this is also missing a front piece here. This would have been about the same size. So, and some of the stuff that you can tell when you start looking at models like this is that it's had several generations. And this is what I mean with these slabs that were laid down.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole back part here, this is all bedrock. All of this. So this is the source pool, the cistern, and the back of these perches, or the sofas, you want to call them. This is all carved out of bedrock, and the entire floor in here is also out of bedrock. Everything around it in a horseshoe shape here, this is all small stone masonry. So that's all, the dirt and stones piled on top of each other to make a structure, right? And one of the things that I noticed here, so we have bedrock from here to here and around this way. But if you start looking and following these lines here, you start going, and you kind of see a much bigger circle than the one we're in currently. And you also have that stone that so it's the white tip stone. That is actually all the way back here. and there's another one right there. So there's a great potential that there was another ring that was all the way out here.
Mhm.
And then we have, oh, that was one too far. And then we have another ring going on the inside of that. All the way around here. Dunk. And then we have the current back wall that is in that we have excavated right now. And to me, this says that there are at least one, 2, 3 generations
Mm.
of this, which means that this site has been in use for a long dang time. So, but the interesting part, and when it comes to this water stuff, or is where the water comes from, what it does, and how it all works. And that's a really quick little showcase here. So from the base down that little stone slab that I showed you in the photos earlier, that's where the water starts coming up from. There's a natural spring, and that's what I. Oh, no, sorry,
And that's the highest
I'm
point.
getting ahead of myself.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
getting
okay.
ahead of myself because I'm forgetting to actually bring in the stuff that I have put into this. So what I've put into it is, first of all, come on, wake up. There we go. All of this stuff. So I've re-erected all of these T-pillars as best as I can, and also repaired these stone slabs. I have also put in some of the artifacts. Come on, wake up. That have been found, and these are I've modeled them in. These are found in San Diofa Museum as well. These 6 plates, and they are modeled into the area where they were found archaeologically, and that's what I'm doing. I'm taking all these artifacts, trying to model them as best as I can, or find scans of them and put them back into place.
Ooh,
But
hallelujah. This
so that's
is
a lot. That's a
wonderful.
lot of work, but it has to be done for if we're gonna have some sort of result out of what I want to do, and that's try to figure out what this was all for. And so now I turn on the next cool modeling feature, and that's the water. And when I start bringing this in, you're going to see it down in this pit here. This is where the water comes out, because I believe that this was dug to go dig into, or a natural spring that was there. And the water was coming out of this natural spring in a hole in the layers in the rock, and they started carving into this hole to widen this hole and create a standing body of water where you can like put a bucket into and get water out of. And they kept going and bigger and bigger. So the water fills up this little hole first in the base, and then it fills up this upper pool. And when it comes to just where it is filled up, it starts spilling over this edge here. And then it goes straight into the cistern and starts filling that up. And there is no exit, no other water exit from these 2 areas, except overspilling and getting overfull and overspilling out into the area surrounding it, which there was also a safety feature for. And same with the cistern. There's no other exit than overfilling it. So the first thing that the water encounters, the first low point that the water encounters, is this very, very smooth area here, which is, like we saw in the photos, carved down concave to provide this natural overflowing point. The water then fills up the cistern, and you can actually see it from the guy's head here that we're getting filled up. And so I turn this around, you see the water starts creeping up towards this hole here. And
Look
when
at the
it hits,
shape that it comes out of, right there. Ooh.
all right, we're not gonna
Well,
go there.
yeah, well,
Let's
it's
do
just
it.
the masculine and the feminine, it charging it with the masculine energies and the feminine energies, and it's profound.
That balance is always there when it comes to these things. There's always features of the masculine. There's also features of the feminine. Everything basis around a very, very
Sacred.
good understanding of the balance with nature, that everything is connected, all are one, everything is connected, there is nothing separating us, everything is one. And these people knew that, and they respected it, and that's the reason why they've been able to delve this and figure all of this stuff out. But see here what happens to the face. Right at the point where you see the water starts spilling over and going into the main enclosure, see the water level. It is right there at that mustache.
Mm.
So that's why I believe that mustache has formed. You know, the water will rise and rise and rise and rise till it gets to that point. And when it gets to that point, it starts spilling out the other end. So the water is going to be maintained around that level as long as it doesn't spew in more water than we pull out. And we can only pull out water down to a level where it comes down to here. That's the natural level of overspill. So there's no other drain in here. So that's what the face is for. So that's their little humoristic thing to see that we're almost there, but it's just up to his neck. And when it gets to here, when he just
Like, oh, we don't want to drown him.
Exactly.
We don't want to drown him.
He's just about to drown, the water is right. And then when he drowns, it's too much and it's going to overspill, and that's going to start lifting the lid. But there is overflow features also here. So the story of the main enclosure is a little bit different because we have these two darker spots over here. These are actually deeper holes. These are the lowest points of this entire installation. This is not the entire site. I believe this is just one installation on this site. You can see the water coming out here from the left side, and the closest thing here is this pit here, which is the drain, or one of the drains. So if nothing really happens, the water is just going to go in there and not going to go anywhere. And this area is very nicely rounded off. So if we block that off with a few select pieces of rock, which they were really good at carving, so it would not be an issue to them, and make that just as high as you want the water level, the water is just going to deflect past it and keep going down the other end. Down the other end, we have another drain, which is going to hit, and we need to block that off as well. So we do that, and then the water starts filling up from the lowest point of this area. And now we get to the really interesting part, and that's when all of this is full to capacity. And that's where we get around here. And this is what the site would have looked like when it was primed, full of water, and ready to be used.
Ooh.
But that's not the coolest part. Because the really cool part is the shocker is when I position myself right about here in this model, and I was looking down into the water, trying to get that angle
Constellation.
right. And let's just say, so it's the right one. And what happened was when I turned out the lights, so I went from daylight. Please don't crash. This is what happens when you turn out the light, when you have the pool, when you have KARAHAN Tepe filled up with water.
Oh my God.
And it crashed. But you get the image. My program just crashed, so it's going to disappear here in a little bit. I don't know how long it's going to hang on to the screen, but that is the end of it, and that's the result of it. And this is what came out when I did this, and I just put another thing, or another what do you call it, HDRI environment on it, and I just got, holy crap, this is what it was used for. It's a reflecting pool. It's a massive reflecting pool, and it's an observatory, star observatory. And I believe that KARAHAN Tepe, Göbekli Tepe, and these Topolo sites were kind of like universities where you have both the study of, where you have actual research being done, and you have younger students being taught these things. So both learning about it as a phenomenon and teaching it to others as we go along. So I think that these sites were used as as universities, and part of what they did, not all of it, but part of what this was, and especially what these enclosures were for, were star observations. You remember those 6 plates that I showed earlier there in the
Yes.
model? Yeah,
Yes.
very interestingly enough, at the time, 7 planets were known, and we're standing on one of them. So the only 6 things that would be moving around the sky out of sync with the stars would be 6 planets.
Mm.
And these disks, there are 6 of them. They all have different size, different shapes, and a little bit different color. So you can identify which each one is. So those plates, in my idea, is that they were used to actually just put on the bottom, because the water is not very deep. So you would see them on the bottom. And you would place those on the bottom of the water where the planet was. And you would just move it around or follow the planetary orbit. And you could
Mm.
document it in sands on the bottom, for example. These drain holes, there's a lot of dark silt in these drain holes. None of it's been excavated and tested as far as I know. But I believe that this is sand or fine sand that they have darkened with, for example, charcoal or whatever, and to make it more what do you call it? Contrast, deeper contrast between background and reflection and stuff like that. So it would be very easy to see these things. So it would be easy to mark stuff and all of this. And around this enclosure are these 2 levels, these slabs that I showed you about. If you've ever been outside watching the stars and looking up, and you can stand there and talk to your buddies about it for about 15 minutes, and then you're going to get a sprain in your neck because you're like, I can't do this anymore. And whenever you try to point at a star and tell them what star you're talking about, you can never tell what the hell you're talking about.
And if you could blow it up on a projector, with the water, and if you can literally, you see that and retaining it. Also, it makes me think of water scrying, of like asking certain questions, because you could do that with actual just water, and then of utilizing the stars for that as well. And
but this was just a mirror. This was the looking glass. So the water serves only the purpose of being the mirror pane of reflecting what was above. So when you're standing on these 2 levels, these slabs around the circumference of this, you're at a perfect angle when one behind and above the other. If you're going to point out, I'm talking about that star right over there, you're both going to be in the same line of sight going into the water. So it's a reflection pool. And the reflection pools, we know, have been of great, great, great value to, well, through as long as far back as we know. This is it. And we have them in South America, we have them in Egypt, we have them all over the world. And one of the most known one is in Washington, D.C., right outside your famous White House. It's the reflecting pool. What was it? The Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, or whatever it is. Just
and it has an obelisk. Yeah, an obelisk at the end.
At one end of it. Might be interesting to find out where that reflection pool was built to be looked from. Is it the lap of Lincoln or something like that? Where are you supposed to look at?
Lincoln. Yeah.
And at what time? Because that obelisk is at the end of a reflection pool. It's going to be pointing at something. That's a marker. At the end of a reflection pool that is that big, that's a marker. The interesting part about KARAHAN TEPE and the circle there is that it has the divisions between them. It has 13 compartments around the entire circumference.
13.
13 compartments between the T-pillars, which is very interesting because there is a calendar that has 13
Ophiuchus.
Lunar.
Yeah, Ophiuchus is like the 13th one. That's interesting.
Well, the lunar calendar consists of 13 months and 28 days. You as a woman, you should be very familiar with this cycle, especially. But it's a lunar cycle, and it's a map or a calendar that's been used throughout time. as far back as we can document. It's part of the Mayan calendar is the lunar calendar, and well, yeah, we only use the Gregorian calendar now for the last 500, 600 years or something like that, but it's the most correct calendar we could actually go by. It's the 13-month, 28 days. Interestingly enough, did you know a turtle shell usually has these 13 major slots around it, or sections around it, and the center part of the shell has the 28 divisions on it?
Yeah.
Really cool. Nature. So this and now showing you this is why what I saw back in 2019, this whole water feature. And then as I built this and made this model now, and all of this is coming out. So now I'm working on the last few details to really visualize this. And when that's done, I just gotta edit it all together to a YouTube video explaining it all and upload it. And
Yeah, I want to spread the word. I want people to be aware of you and your work, and I want it to be an integral part on having people become aware of you, because what you've done is so inspirational, and it's really a gift to humanity, and it's so inspiring to look at this site and the way that you present it, and it's so easy to understand, and it aligns with things that I received with the water structures, and it just visions and experiences that I've had. And so it's so profound and supportive. So I'm so appreciative, and it really makes me so happy to have had the honor of you coming on and sharing that. Like, it's amazing and profound. I just want more people to be aware of the work you've done and the determination you had, and you were hands-on with recreating it, and the way you like it. That's amazing, Dennis.
Thank you. That's I just feel that it, if someone's got to do it, someone's got to try to tell this story as well. I don't know what everybody else sees, but this is what I see anyways, and I need a way to let others see what I see, and then they can take over the research and take it on from there. I don't have the means to go to Turkey and do hands-on stuff.
Well, let's get them raised for you, Dennis. Do you have like a where people can donate to you?
I have a PayPal account, of course. I stream 2 times, like I said before, at the start of this. I stream 2 times a week over on Twitch. It's Twitch TV or twitch.tv/Dennis Glanby, my name, first and last name in just in one word. And you get to my Twitch channel, and from there, it's very easy to navigate to a sponsorship button there with PayPal donate, or as I call it, sponsor me with a Red Bull. And you can donate whatever you want there. You can also come check out my my stream, which is again preparing for this YouTube stuff, getting more camera experience and getting this stuff to work, that stuff to work, stuff like that.
Yeah, so we should do. Please donate to Dennis. We got to get him to Turkey. Oh my gosh, I'd love to be there when that happens. Whenever that does happen.
I do have some people that have promised me some scanning material, drones, stuff like that, to be able to document as much of this site as possible for what I need for my needs, and also the stuff in San Liofo Museum. They promised to loan me like big hand scanners and 3D scanners and stuff like that. So yeah, I would love to get on the ground out there and
we should do like some live telethons with like the donation links on the bottom, and then just like, woo, we should spend a weekend doing that telethon.
You're more than welcome to do so. I've got plenty on my plate to organize something like that. But
let's get Dennis. Yeah, we'll have different guests and have them stream it on their channel. And we're just like, the intention is get Dennis to Turkey, like have him go to the site he's had profound results for. I think people would be invested on that, and I would love to see a documentary of that being executed and carried out and happening. That would be profound.
I would
Dennis,
love to be the one to supply that, and I'm doing the best I can to build up the material to actually do that. The role model in all of this is, of course, Ben Van Kerkwegen, and on his channel Uncharted X, which is the quality of the stuff that he presents on that channel is amazing. And that's the bar set. So if whatever I'm presenting here has to be done properly, otherwise it won't get seen. You know how it is. If it doesn't look appealing enough to you in the first 15-25 seconds, you're gonna scoot on to the next video, and that's it. You're done. You don't get another chance. So it's got to be,
I don't know. I for me, it's like information. Like, I don't care if they have the chintziest background or if it was recorded on the worst camera ever. Like, for me, it's like an energy and a vibration. Like, if the information's there, I don't care. I want to listen and absorb it. But
yeah, that's what I do too. And it's to be able to tell the stories I try to tell. It is pretty much, or I don't. Not try to tell, but it's pretty much impossible. What my goal is to try to teach people to listen to the stories themselves, because anybody can hear and see all the friggin' stuff that I've seen and heard throughout my life, and what I've experienced, and what these stones tell me when I go touch them, and what the water whispers and what the wind whispers and all of this stuff. Everybody can hear this. The universe will talk to everyone. It loves that connection with us. It wants us to have that connection, but we have lost it. We have forgotten what it means to have that connection. And that's why we cover that hole in our souls with, doom scrolling on TikTok and shit like that. We've got artificial networks that we've put in place, in place of the network that we've lost touch with. And once you regain that touch, the universe will tell you everything you need to know about absolutely everything. It wants you to know. It will share with you. And I'm not going to go through it or go into it now, but there is an amazing story of that Plato wrote. Plato is a Greek philosopher.
One of my favorites, man.
Yeah,
Love him.
He wrote in Phaedrus. He wrote the conversation between Thoth and Thamus, and Thamus being Amun-Ra. That was the original god or the main god of the old Egyptian pantheon, and Thoth, the bringer of knowledge and wisdom that we all know about, the ibis bird head god of the Egyptian pantheon. Plato rewrote these characters, of course, in Greek with their Greek names, and that's Thoth and and Thamus. Thoth and Thamus. And that's a story that everybody should read at least once and have a good hard think about, because it's about when Thoth brought reading and writing to the people of Egypt, and what Amun had to say about it, because it kind of disconnects us from, or the moral of the story is that reading someone else's word and not experiencing it yourself is fake knowledge. You're just regurgitating someone else's words. You don't have the wisdom about it that is supposed to be accompanied with this knowledge. So you become a holder of fake knowledge. The universe is the one that provides this knowledge, and whatever you want to do, universe will provide. and that's the connection we've all lost.
I feel like throwing my mic just to be like, mic drop moment. Dennis.
Hey, welcome to my world. That's the kind of stuff that I work with. That is this kind of stuff that the bigger picture is all about, and uniting all of these things: legends, myths, stories, archaeology, history, and trying to put the whole bigger picture together. There's a lot of people trying to do this, but they kind of bunch everything up, and as soon as they find something, they want to throw it in the basket with this and this and this and this and this. But there are actually several different things going on at roughly the same time in different places. Just like, like we're walking around scrolling on our iPhones and Android stuff, and having the time of our life, calling an Uber and ordering out and shit like that, getting stuff delivered to our door. But yet we share this planet with, like, down to friggin' earth hunter-gatherers that are still among us. There are still isolated tribes on this planet living completely like hunter-gatherers did 20,000 years ago. But so you see that these two societies are parallel. We're on the same time spot, on the same planet, but we are so completely apart that we might as well be 20,000 years apart. And that is an amazing thing. And you have to think about that also when you go look at history, especially at ancient history. We see this, for example, in ancient Egypt a lot, where we have like these two parallel stories. There's several things going on at the same time. Some things, the later stuff we know a lot about, we have a lot of writing about. And then we have this super fine stuff going on with these super big granite blocks polished to like insane finishes and super smooth curves where, you can't really see it. But when the light shines really right, and you can see the shadows from the ribs that have been like carved into that beautiful black granite or whatever diorite statues and stuff like that. You have to you can't hardly feel them when you run your hand over, and it's so perfectly smooth, but you can see them perfectly when the sun hits them or the light shines just right. It's just, come on, guys. You can't make an alabaster vase stand upright, but you can make that. Come on. It's like any kid can carve alabaster. It's like you need a knife and you can still carve alabaster. You can't do that to diorite or to granite or something like that. And that's a whole different story. So there's a lot of that stuff going around. And then we have a bunch of people who are, as I said, disconnected from this universal network, and they're doing everything they can to try to explain shit without having this connection. And then I hear all kinds of weird spatial fucked up explanations for all kinds of stuff that really aren't that complicated. And people want to describe it in giving these super fancy terms and try to explain it with all far out science stuff that nobody can understand, and just to sound cool. And the only thing they really get out of it is a bunch of money, because they make money selling books and selling this and that, and people catch on to it because they don't really understand it, but it sounds really fucking good, so we got to check off on it. And that's what we talked about at the start of this, right? How easy it is for people to, when you're giving testimony, for example, and you have someone else giving statement just before you and can hear what they're saying, how that can affect you, and memory is selective and all that.
Right.
You want to be in with your peers, all your buddy network. So yeah.
I always say people, like, when they hear someone speak, when information, and even in the sound of their voice and certain tones and what they're saying, it unlocks things in your DNA. So it really hits different. When something really resonates, you feel it all over, and and so I think sometimes too, like, things are laced with like, and it's going to be an increase of that, of a lot of, faceless YouTube channels saying information. It's going to be sprinkled with some truths that will resonate, but webbed within them are, misinformation. So, but yeah, you literally feel it deep in your heart. Ultimately, like your presentation today, it makes, like, I can feel like I can't stop smiling. I feel it in my heart. I feel tingly. I want to just yell. I want a mic drop. I want to just like cheer you on and start clapping. Like, I feel it in my soul. And I love when that happens, where I'm like, yes, Dennis, this is profound. Like, this is what we need. This is the type of knowledge, because it really takes you back to the sacred divine, the divine feminine and masculine, right? And then balancing those energies, the practice of how important it is to pray over your water and instill it, because water is programmable and it's what's inside of us, in us, around us, above us, below us. And there's a sacred connection to water that we've forgotten. And, you know, the water we're ingesting now has fluoride in it, and it's loaded with things that are horrendous. Unlike
Not mine.
But hey, so the practice of praying over your water and drinking water that's structured and good for you is so imperative to our consciousness. So I always like to bring it back to the water and its significance, and it brings you closer to God and Source, but also of the stars, of the knowledge of looking above, of the times, and merging those worlds together and seeing things are beyond us and deeper. So cool. Yeah, Hermetics. Woo!
There we go. Hermes Trismegistus.
So, like, it is your soul is so powerful to be able to be, I don't know, I feel like it's of no accident that you are gifted these visions and insights, essentially. And I believe I've noticed that there's some people that are just chosen to be the bearer of those, to bring it to the world. Like, to be the one that's like, yeah, this is, you know, this came from there. It's so divine.
I listen and tell it on. You know, it appears to me so clearly that it's, and then I just got to prove it, because once you see it, you can't really unsee it. And like we said here just a few minutes ago, it was like, when we hear truths, they resonate with us. The frequency of the vibration of truth is something we all know. It's so deep in our core, and it's all the high going, high frequency, the liars that do that, the anxiety part, the whole super high vibration. We can tell straight away, you know, that's what sets the, you know, the alarm flags off, the little red flag that goes ding. It goes like, I ain't going in there. That's you got to listen to your gut feeling. But as soon as you start thinking too much, when we don't truly understand something, we have a hard time explaining it. And if you want to learn something, you want to talk to someone, and you want to really, really learn something, go talk to the person who can tell you in very few words and explain it so you can understand it like that. Because someone who can easily explain something is the person who truly understands it. Otherwise, you're unable to explain it properly. So, but when you start getting into very complicated explanations and high-flying stuff, and you kind of go, oh wow, you got to stretch your imagine quite far to really make these things fit in. That's when you need to take a step back and say, like, maybe there's another answer to this question here somewhere. And a lot of the stuff that we're trying to answer, or that we're asking questions about, is stuff that really isn't too hard to answer with base logics. We don't have to go deep into science or anything like that to look at these things. And I part of what I do also is kind of like debunk a lot of stuff when it comes to these wild flying ideas that many people have about certain things. And in my initial presentation of myself here, it was I said that I spent the last 8 years as a partner in Denmark's biggest, one of Denmark's biggest workshop centers for personal development and spiritual development. I have met a lot of people coming through during these years, and I've talked to them about many, many different things, many, many different topics. And these are teachers and students, and people come from all over the world and from all walks of life. Everything from, we have Seonan, this is Amazon rainforest people, Seonas, Indians, knowledge keepers, Mayan wisdom keepers, coming to our place and sharing their stuff. We have Native American people coming in. We have different Asian teachers, Siberian teachers, shamanistic stuff going on over.
You are like a hub. That's like the ultimate network. Wow.
as I said, it's one of
That is a
Denmark's
lot of
biggest.
sacred energies, right?
Yeah,
You're dealing
yeah.
with.
And we've been in that same location for 17 years now, and Johanna, my partner there, she's been doing this for 27 years. She's one of the prime, well, main, I don't know what you call it, household names when it comes to this stuff. You know, if you start delving into the spiritual stuff or shamanistic stuff, the nature teaching stuff around these parts, you're gonna hit her name pretty quickly. So, and that's the place that we were running. So that's where all of this, the other research that I've done regarding the spirituality of things, and also met a lot of different theories about many, many, many different things and many different topics. And hearing somebody tell me about these things, and I go, does that really make sense to me? I need to go check this out, and then I can have that in the back of my head for years. And then all of a sudden, you know, I'd look into it a little bit here, a little bit there, and then I kind of like, all right, that's really not how this works, and that explains that. Oh shit, no, it's another money-making scheme. Damn. You'd be amazed how many things that a lot of people believe that are nothing but money-making schemes. You'd be amazed. Where a lot of people use a lot of scientific language to tell of stuff, and
I've noticed that being an effective strategy tactic of flood it with so much facts and information, they become overwhelmed. This has to, my conclusion is this has to be true because you've just supported it with so much information. You flooded me with it. And so therefore I believe you. You overwhelm them with so much information. It's like a conclusion they come to. Like, yeah, absolutely.
when you follow a path or listen to a message, if you come to any form of pay portal, walk away. Walk away. If there's someone down that road selling you a book, walk away. Because spirituality is free and accessible to each and every one. All you have to do is kick off your shoes, walk into the woods, and sit down by a tree and listen. That's all you have to do. Turn your phone off, kick off your shoes, sit under a tree and listen. You are going to change. That's just that's where the connection comes from. When we stop focusing on all of these little things, all of the
we want to be told that so many want to be told though. It's like just go in silent. I think that was like part of my like epiphany thing of like, wait, you know, I would develop my visions and meditate and a lot of discipline and a lot of discipline, really essentially. And I was like, oh my gosh, all the answers are inside of you. Like, I need to tell the people. It's like, truly it is, but no one truly wants to do, a lot of people don't want to do the work it takes to receive it. Or, you know, most of the time it's like,
healing is hard.
like meditate, you try to get someone to meditate and they literally, like, that's what they're avoiding is being alone with their own thoughts. And then all those thoughts after they pass by, then the insights and all of the messages in the universe come to you, you know, and a lot of people don't want to do that.
No, because you need to restore a balance. You need to restore that connection with Mother Earth and the universe. But what people tend to do is overcomplicate things. And as you say, you know, being alone with your thoughts, that's a big ass thing. You know, I've spent many years working with that, and I kind of like being alone with my thoughts nowadays. They you know, I know the voices aren't real, but shit, they come up with some interesting stuff, you know.
What I think helps people is being able to differentiate what's them, what's not coming from them, what's their neighbor stressing out, what's like a darker spirit or whatever is whispering in your ear, being able to differentiate those energies, because sometimes what they're avoiding isn't their own thoughts, it's coming from around them. And so being able to have those practices to differentiate and to where you could tune things out and be one with yourself and everything.
Yeah, we touched a little bit about that earlier, about the collective consciousness thing. And, you know, you kind of become, show me your friends and I show you who you become.
Mm.
Because you kind of adapt into or assimilate into that hive that is your friendship or circle of or base network or whatever you want to call it. And you always got to remember, when it comes to other people, they don't want to hear your opinion. They want to hear their opinion coming out of your mouth.
They want
And
confirmation, and this becomes like this projection game, you know?
exactly. Exactly. And that's a really dangerous thing, because then we're not talking the pure things like uh um love, respect, and these things. We're talking about ego, and ego is really dangerous, because there's um we don't need ego. Ego is a bad thing. Um we need to preserve ourselves, we need to get our shit together, but we don't need more than we
Well,
need.
sometimes I feel like ego like protects people because like no one really wants you to be confident around here. And if you are confident, and maybe I'm associating confidence and like with ego, but sometimes I feel like there's like a healthy amount of it that can help, get you to where you need to go confidently,
Yeah,
of
you can be a confident person without being an egotistical person.
yeah, I think I'm muttering those waters.
Oh well, well, if you want to look at the defining factor, you look at greed. Greed is the
Mm,
greed. If there's any aspect to it that is greedy in some form or way, be it financial, be it energy wise, whatever it is, if you take more than you need, if you overfeed on something, be it energy, food, money, whatever it is, be it dresses or shoes or cars or watches or whatever, if you overconsume it, it's a bad thing, and you're going to lose it all. That's just the way the universe works.
mm.
It's the law of attraction. You invite what's proper and true, and you're gonna, when you end up over consuming, we lose the respect and the connection with nature. And do you know the story of Atlantis, for example? If you like Plato, you've heard the story of Atlantis.
Hmm.
Why did Atlantis fall?
They
Why was that
superseded
part?
the technological superseded the spiritual. They got too technologically advanced and they didn't balance it out with their spiritual practices. So we destroy ourselves every time that's happened. And I feel like it's happened
Man,
a
man,
lot of times.
man placed himself in the space of in the place of God. And that's, humans became so egotistical, so full of themselves, that God or gods decided to end them. And
Mm,
that's basically the story of Atlantis. And all the cataclysm stories have that same basis in their story. Man had lost their ways. Man tried to take the place of God. Man thought they became God. Man got too routed up in himself and too tangled up in his own bullshit, and forgot his way with nature and the universe. It's the same story everywhere, and it's the downfall of man. And look at where we are now. Look at the egotistical
right.
bastards moving around on this planet, right? How
Right.
many of them are in touch with the universe? How many of these guys or these people that well, you just walk out in the street and you see them by the tons. You can feel them. They're not grounded. They're high flying on their dopamine trips, and they're constantly going on their phone. They're just looking for that next quick fix, all the freaking time. And if it's not scrolling on that, it's scrolling through bank statements, or, you know, buying shit, or over consuming whatever it is. It's slow down. I did a TED talk a bunch of years back now. One of those messages that I piled into that was enjoy the little things.
Mm,
And it's a really important thing to do, to take the time out, like the saying goes, you got to stop and smell the roses every once in a while. You got to take the time and just stop what you're doing, and just enjoy what you are, where you are, how you are. Pay attention to each breath. Just let it fill your lungs and exhale it again. Watch the clouds swish by. Don't think a thought. It's like that part of it. That's where it is, and that's where happiness comes from. Happiness is a choice, And those are the little things that provide the fuel to become happy.
Dennis, woo! Give
As
you
I said,
Ric
there's
Flair,
a
woo!
little bit of everything in this package.
Yes. This has been amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Dennis, thank you so much. This is profound.
Thank
You're
you
amazing.
for having me on.
Absolutely.
Got to get back to my own crowd
Yeah,
as well.
I'll let you. I'll let you go do your stream. Thank you for starting a little bit later for your and being over here. And I look forward to talking to you again. And we got. I'm telling you, telethon. I'm serious. We got to get you. I want to get you to Turkey.
Build it, and they shall come.
Awesome. All right. Well, you have a wonderful show and a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to speaking to you again and doing a telethon.
Likewise.
Watch the sun come up, beautiful, till it all burns out. We're like falling stars, miracles, dancing on the ground. And we're right with you to feel it strike deep dive. We're right with you, yeah. And we're right with you to feel it strike deep dive. Suffering grows, yeah. Let's say that life is beautiful.